So I'd like to just start with a comment that the city's drinking water currently is safe to drink, and that we at the Water Treatment Services Unit are all focused as our #1 priority of ensuring that that continues to be true and that we will be protecting in public health. And that is our primary focus and mission. So with that in mind, I understand that there's a lot of anxiety around this particular event, and we've received many questions from you and many questions from the community. We've been doing our best to triage those and provide answers to those questions. As you can imagine, we've got also a lot of questions from the media, and we're between myself and the communication manager, Ms. Wandrash, we're doing our best to try to stay on top of all those questions while also trying to lead the city's response. So I appreciate your patience in giving us some time to respond to those questions, and hopefully I can answer some of those tonight. So I'd like to first just start with what we do know. So we know that there was a release over the weekend of 10,000 gallons of 5% hexavalent chromium into the storm sewer from Tri-Bar Industries, into the sanitary sewer, excuse me, from Tri-Bar Industries, and that has transmitted to the Wixom wastewater treatment plant. Some amount of that chemical has been released into Norton Creek, which is where the Wixom wastewater treatment plant discharges, and that's a tributary of the Huron River. We don't know that maybe some of that chemical is currently retained at the Wixom wastewater treatment plant. They're continuing to investigate that now. A pretty broad response team. I'm sorry?
We had commentary in the room, Mr. Steglitz. Please continue. Okay.
A pretty broad response team has been formed that includes many people from the state of Michigan, Eagle, and there are many folks assembled in order to develop a coordinated response. Eagle has, at this point, collected 11 samples from the Huron River downstream of the Wixom wastewater treatment plant, and all of those samples of the water have been found to be non-detect for chromium. They are continuing to sample. Today they have collected, I think, 24 more samples along stretches of the Huron River, and some of those much closer to Ann Arbor, including at the entrance to Barton Pond. And we hope to have those results within the next day or so. In addition to that, the city is doing its own sampling, and we are also collecting samples at our intake at the Huron River and Barton Pond. This event is truly a coordinated event. We are working very closely with Eagle. There's an incident command team that has been assembled that's meeting every day. I'm participating in that, representing the city, as well as Chief Kennedy and Sydney Parmenter, the emergency manager. There's also a group of PIOs that are communication managers participating in, as well with representatives from the state and the county. So this is truly a very large coordinated effort. EPA has also been involved. So what else are we doing at the City of Ann Arbor? So in addition to collecting samples and continuing to monitor and track the movement of this into our intakes in Barton Pond, we've also ordered some materials that will be arriving over the next day or two that will allow us to do some treatability studies over the next week to determine our ability to remove this chemical from the source waters. And we hope to have more information about that work over the coming week. The other item that I'd like to mention is, well, let me stop there for a second, and I'm going to address some of the questions that we received. I also, please understand that this is very much a dynamic situation. So more information is coming in every day, and we are adapting and trying to pivot based on the information that we receive. One of the important things that we're focused on now, associated with the work that Eagle is doing, is hopefully the work that they're doing will help us identify where the contamination is along the stretch of the Huron, which is going to be very important for us in terms of developing our response plans, so we'll have a much more clarity on when and if it would reach Barton Pond. And at this point, that window is very large, as you all know, somewhere between 2 weeks and maybe even a month to 2 months. And that has to do just with the complexity of the water channel and the number of impoundments along the river between here and where the contamination entered the river. And there's so many variables, it's really difficult to predict. So we're hoping the sampling effort that Eagle is undertaking will help provide clarity. So I will choose some of the questions that you have submitted to me to answer, and these are I've selected the ones that we're seeing probably most commonly from customers and the media. The first question being, if chemicals are detected in the Ann Arbor water supply, what action will the city take? So again, we are focused on looking at how the treatment process that we currently have in Ann Arbor can be modified to accommodate removing this new chemical, and we hope to have more information about that over the coming week. Is there an alternative source of water identified that can be used instead of the Huron River? So we're fortunate in Ann Arbor to have two sources of water to the city's water system. We have the Huron River, and we also have wells located on the south side of town. And we blend these at the water treatment plant. So this allows us some flexibility in case we have an issue with one of our water supplies. So we would be taking advantage of the well source, which would not be impacted by this contamination and spill event, if as needed. Should residents be stockpiling water or buying bottled water? The city's water currently is safe to drink, and at this point, there's no need for residents to be stockpiling water or buying bottled water. Do customers need to have a home treatment device? Customers do not need to install any home treatment devices. Again, the water at this point in time remains safe to drink, and we intend to keep it in that same fashion. I think those are the majority of the questions that I think are the most common. I understand that there's several others that have been submitted to us, and it is our intent to respond to those in due time as we have, as the communications manager and I have time over the coming days, and we will provide those responses in writing.